Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are connecting with a new IFBB Bikini Pro who has her master's degree in speech pathology, and she works as a regional director of operations for Reliant Rehab, which offers PT, OT, and ST in skilled nursing facilities. She also offers online coaching for competitors and lifestyle clients. She herself started competing in 2017 on a whim at the Salt Lake City Showdown, and she went on to compete in 7 national shows before earning her pro card at Universe in 2019. And then she went on to make her pro debut at Wings of Strength in 2019 as well. So welcome to the show, Emily Parris. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yes, of course. I'm so happy you're here. And you know I'm going to ask you this. So what's something you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
I definitely knew that one was coming. So right before I step on stage, I literally just take a minute to absorb the atmosphere. I have been a dancer and performer throughout my life, so the stage is actually what drew me to the sport in the first place. So I take a second and I remind myself why I'm there, because sometimes, the nerves can come in just a little bit, but I take my deep breath. I smile out at the judges from the side of the stage, and I tell myself what a badass I am, and that let's do this. And so just a little mini pep talk every time, that deep breath, and go.
That's awesome. I love that. I love how you go and you tell yourself, like, why am I actually here? You immerse yourself in the environment and you give yourself a pep talk, which is so cool. And I actually, when I was prepping your interview, I was like, I just still can't get over the fact that you did your first competition on a whim. Like, what does that mean? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, it was in January of 2017. I had the previous fall returned from living abroad in Asia. While I was over there, I wasn't able to perform or do anything that I had been doing in the States before I left. So I kind of picked up just lifting weights in the gym. I'd never really done it before, but I needed to work out because I need to work out. And so I started lifting. When I returned to the United States, I then thought, working out and lifting weights is pretty fun. I'm not so intimidated by it anymore. I can walk in that free weight section with the men and it's okay. And so I was like, you know what? Let's push myself. Let's see what it's like. And since I have a dance and performance background, honestly, the bikinis drew me in.
Yes.
all the crystals and the hair and the makeup. And at that point, I was just like, oh, that could be fun. Had no idea what this actually was all about. I just thought, I want to really work out. I want to push my body to see what I can actually do. And you get crystals and makeup and hair to boot, so why not? So I literally just found that there was a show in Salt Lake City, because that's where I was living at the time. Paid my money, signed up. I didn't even know at that point what the NPC was or how you got a pro card. I knew nothing.
Wow.
And so, I put my money in, started training, and, like everybody's first show, it's a first show, so you don't really know what you're doing, but it went okay. And after I got off that stage that day, I literally was like, oh my gosh, I love this. How do I get good at it? And
Oh,
the rest is history.
wow. Yes, how amazing. Because I think in one of your posts you said you placed fifth at your first show, right?
Yes, fifth in True Novice, and actually, Sandy Williamson was judging that day. And I remember being backstage. I was by myself because I wasn't part of a team or anything like that. And I heard people talking, "Oh, Sandy's judging." I was just like, "Well, who's Sandy? Like, what? What are you talking about?"
Uh-huh.
And so, looking back now, I really was that true novice, and learned very quickly who Sandy Williamson
Yes, ignorance is
was.
bliss, they say.
Yeah, at that point. And then I was like, oh man, if I'm going to do this, I got to figure out what I'm getting myself into.
Yes, definitely. And it's really cool to hear that you really just jumped right in. I'm wondering though, how many weeks out was it that you prepped for when you officially registered to when you actually stepped on stage?
It was about 12 weeks that first time because it was at the beginning of February when I decided, hey, I'm going to do this. And then I believe the show was in April that
Mm-hmm.
year. So it wasn't even that long.
That's awesome. No, I think that's super cool because what you said resonates with me about how you just want to see, okay, I'm liking this lifestyle. How can I take it to the next level? How can I push myself? See what else I got? That was a big driver for me
hmm
too. So I respect
hmm
that and I see that in you. I think that's really cool. And I remember when I first started like researching it, I didn't know what the hell I
hmm
was supposed to look up. So I think, it could have been just as easy for you to have landed in any other division, when you're typing in those search
hmm
words, you get bombarded with all sorts of things. So it must have been by fate that you would find NPC and you would find it in your hometown.
Absolutely. I think it was fate. I think there's something to that. It was meant to be. I just happened to have that show in my town. Like I said, no idea. I remember sitting in my bed watching YouTube videos of people on stage and posing, and I had no idea like what the difference in posing was. I didn't even, know bikini from figure from physique. I truly just jumped in. But it was truly the best decision I've made, I'd say, in my adult career, because it's become a lifestyle. It truly has been life changing.
That's amazing. And you said you were a performer before that and you were missing that. Although I am curious what made you live abroad in Asia.
Early midlife crisis. No. um, I was actually so I went to college. I went to Auburn University. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree there in speech pathology, as you said. Went on and started my career, did all the things, quote unquote, you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
And, I treated patients in skilled nursing facilities as a speech pathologist for a couple years. Um, I, and everything I do, my mom says I'm bossy. Maybe I am, but I always think I can be the boss. Like I can do that. And I think that gives me part of my drive too, because I always want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So I quickly became the director of a department of therapy and did that for a while. So I felt like I had my career set, and but I've always wanted to live abroad, and I was looking for speech jobs abroad, Europe, Asia. I even looked in New Zealand and got a job offer there, but they wanted me to start too quickly. So I just decided it was the time to kind of take a little sabbatical from my career and go I started in China. So I moved to
Ah.
China, and I actually did use my background because I taught English to children, but I also worked with corporations, teaching English as a second language to the LG Corporation because they do business with the United States. They need to be able to switch their dialect and use business words. And so I did that while in China.
Wow.
And I know, totally random.
That's
And
cool.
then I decided, you know what? a year of this isn't enough. I want to move again. So I moved to Thailand, and I taught in an elementary school in Thailand for a year, and then decided if I was going to come back to my career and still get a decent job, I probably didn't need to take more than 2 years off, and it was probably time to come back. So I did, and I jumped right back in, and hit the road running. That seems to be my theme.
Wow. Wow. I like how you say taking 2 years off. I'm like, that doesn't sound like time off. It sounds like you were working throughout that whole thing, like developing
Yeah.
really great and new skills. I mean, if you can communicate with people who speak a completely different language, then you would be such an asset anywhere else, I imagine.
Oh yeah, it's such a cool thing too, and I gained more through the experience than I feel like I was able to give. Yes, I taught people, I worked with adults, I worked with children, but just the cultural experience. I know when I was preparing to go to China, like when you wrap your mind around it, yeah, it's going to be different, but you can't really even fathom how different it's going to be until you're actually there. And I remember sitting in this tiny little apartment that is probably the size of my current closet, with they had chickens in the hall and fish hanging in front of the window, and it smelled, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what did I do?
Wow. Sounds horrible.
So yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. But that's what's also so cool about traveling. Like you said, though, is it's like you
Hmm.
get exposed to the different cultures, you get those experiences, and it can provide so much perspective. And I think it's really
Oh my
awesome that
gosh.
you took that leap of faith for yourself and you were like, okay, let's do this. And something you
Hmm.
said that I think rings true for a lot of competitors, a lot of people in general, is you said, like, you like to be bossy or be the boss, be the best, become the
Hmm.
best, and that
Hmm.
led to your
Hmm.
advancement in your career as well. But why did you choose speech pathology in the first place?
This is kind of funny too. So I
Mhm.
was in school. I started my freshman year, and I thought I might want to be a doctor or do something in the medical field. So I took, that freshman intro to medicine class, whatever it is, and they start going through everything, and there were so many math classes, and I'm so bad at math. I'm very much a like I'm your artsy type, and I'm great at literary things. I can write. I'm creative. Math does not make sense to me. And so I saw all the classes, and I was like, I'm going to fail up, like flunk out of school if I do this. So I went to the counselor and was like, I still want to be in the medical field, but you have to tell me what is out there that I can do and not take math. And so we landed in therapy. I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist because I've always liked to work out and I'm intrigued by the body. But again, it had a couple of chemistry classes that I thought I wouldn't do very well in. And so she was like, well, you can do speech therapy. And I looked at it. I'd already taken the one math class that was required prerequisite. I'm like, sold. So
Wow.
it's based on my hatred for math that I became a speech therapist.
I love that. And it sounds like you're passionate about it.
Yes, it actually fits me very well. So maybe it's another one of those fate moments that things just work out as they are supposed to, because it is a great way that we get to impact people's lives. I love working with adults, and especially in the environment we've been in lately with the COVID and everything going through the nursing homes. I think
Mhm.
communication is so impactful, and the therapists that are actually in the facilities now, I'm not at the facility level anymore, but they get to do cool things like teaching the patients how to use an iPad to FaceTime their family and do things that
Mhm.
are pretty impactful for day to day life. And if you can imagine not being able to talk or not being able to, um, get your thoughts out or even eat, because we do a lot with swallowing therapy as well. Those are pretty
Mhm.
big things in life. So if you can help a couple people in a lifetime, I think that is very, very worthwhile.
Mhm. Yeah, that breaks my heart to think about. My grandpa, he's an amazing storyteller, and I love
Mm,
him so much that I would call him. I got into this rhythm of calling him like every week or every 2 weeks, and then, something happened, and he no longer could speak. Like he can speak, but
mm,
it's all slurred, and it's so sad because
mhm,
I know he has all these amazing thoughts and so many stories to share. I can't imagine just sitting with it all day. And so he writes or he types it out and he's learning to text and everything. But
mhm,
it's just sad to
mhm.
think like we take a lot of those things for granted. So what are some things you do in, and I know I'm going on and on about this. I definitely want to get into your career as an athlete too, but I am really curious,
That's
like
okay.
as a speech pathologist, like you went to Asia and you help people learn how to communicate better in big companies like LG, but also in schools and teaching English as a second
Mhm,
language. But what is it? What else does it look like? Is that like, can you explain the career itself?
mhm. So I chose the route of more the medical adult path in my career. And essentially, as a therapist, I worked a little bit in acute care, but 99% of my time has been in skilled nursing facilities, so nursing homes. We do short term and long term rehab in nursing homes. So the patients that I see, we work on dysphagia therapy, which is swallowing disorders. So anybody, so let's say you've had a CVA, a stroke, and you come in, most likely you could have anything from cognitive deficits to speech and language issues, ranging from like aphasia, not being able to get your words out, or they come out and they make no sense at all. It's just jumbled mess. Um, and then maybe you can't move your mouth correctly, so you can't chew food. If you have one sided weakness, then maybe you can't swallow. And so we work with the physicians to adjust food consistencies, do neuro re-education for muscles. We can do different types of therapy for swallowing, and do a lot of drill for speech and language, voice. We can also work with dementia and Alzheimer's. So we do a lot of cognitive therapy in this setting. So
Wow.
doing anything from like memory books. So if somebody has Alzheimer's and that's a progressive retrogenesis is what we call it, going back to the beginning. So we make books with family members' photos and name them and drill them. So hopefully, when that daughter does come back in, there's a recognition and how impactful when you come in that your mom does remember your name or something like that. So this is a wide range of things that we would do day to day while in the skilled nursing facility. Now I'm a regional director of operations in California, and I have a region pretty much from Sacramento to Fresno, so the whole center part of the
Wow.
state. And so I oversee the directors in the buildings. And so I'm more on the operations side of things these
Hmm.
days. Still work a lot with a therapist, but also overseeing our clinical operations and our fiscal operations. So I do a lot more with especially since COVID has come into play, a lot more with conference calls and talking to people. And I do get to interview therapists and hire people. And I also supervise new speech pathologists. So I really get to help try to guide and mold new therapists as they come into their career as well.
Wow. What
Did I
an
get did I get off
in
topic?
No, no, this is so beautiful. I love this show because I get to learn so many amazing things about athletes, and we go deeper than, what we see on Instagram or whatever. And I just love that you
Hmm.
shared all that, and I appreciate that so much. And such amazing impact you're able to have and you've been able to have because of it. And what I love too is how integrative it is and how it's a consideration of the whole person, and how does that person impact their environments as well and vice versa. And That is just so cool. I learned about some of that stuff through my psychology degree, and it's been talked a little bit about in the counseling degree, but
Hmm.
it's because it's integrative, right? So
Yeah.
that's really cool. I love to hear that you're doing that. And a lot of girls actually who listen to the show are like, I wish there were more girls on, or more, I should say, more women on who work full time or who have jobs outside of
Hmm.
the fitness industry. I know you do fitness coaching as well, but you've
Hmm.
said you thrive off of routine, and I think a lot of us do. So how do you personally manage your time between work and competing and life?
Oh man, it is 90 to nothing. And um, so what I tell people, whether they're my clients or just people um, who I've trained in the gym, is that, you know what, we prioritize and make time for what it is that's important to us. So when I hear you don't have time, I think you're probably just not making time
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I don't have children, so I can't say that I have that pulling me away. I have a career that takes a lot of my time. I have also, last year, as I was prepping for nationals trying to get my pro card, I was working in a gym from about 4:45 in the morning till 8, and I would train people in the gym. From that time, I would run from there to change clothes and get my first breakfast in, then go to work, and I would treat patients for
Wow.
however long that went. And then I would go home, and then you have all your cardio and lifting. And so I would often close out the gym at 9 o'clock when it closed because it closed early. I hated that. And then I would go and finish my cardio I lived downtown Salt Lake City at that time. So I would walk around downtown or go do sprints between light posts or whatever it took to get it done. So I think you just have to have a lot of structure. And I think that's why people who like routine do well in this sport because it's okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's not, some people
Yes.
like chaos. I don't like chaos. I like to know, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. And that is going to equal this.
Yes, and you know
So,
what? Being someone who doesn't like math, no. um, but like what I was thinking too, and what you were saying that I think is important to mention too, is you're like, I would make it work. I would find a way to make it work. If you needed to run between light
hmm
posts, you would run between light posts. And this is something
hmm
that's come up with the clients that I work with. It's this all or nothing mentality that sometimes holds us back from
hmm
actually creating the time and space for what we really need, because we think, oh, I
hmm
can't do my cardio for let's say your coach gives you 35 minutes of cardio and you're like, well, I don't have 35
hmm
minutes straight in my day. Well, there's going to be people who say, I'm going to make it happen when I can find the time. And then there's going to be people who say, well, because I can't do it all 35 in a row, I'm not going to do it at all. And I think that
Yep.
that can be a key distinguishing factor between those who have longevity and those who become champions versus those who just say, you know what, I couldn't do it all the way I thought I needed to. And it's those standards and expectations of, what
hmm
100% looks like, when really it sounds like what you did was the best you could with what you had.
Exactly. And just the consistency in that. I mean, this past year was insane because I went from, I was treating a treating therapist, and then I got this opportunity to take this regional director position in California, but I was living in Salt Lake City. So I was traveling back and forth from Salt Lake City every single week. So I would
Wow.
pack all of my food for the week into this little backpack. TSA stopped me every time I went through and checked
Mm-hmm.
all of my food. I'm like, hey, could you not touch it so much? I mean, um, and then I would get my rental car, drive a couple hours to my first facility, see my people, go check into my hotel. All the while, I knew every gas station along the way because they have microwaves you can use. And when I was actually making the transition to move out here to California, there was a week or so that I had no refrigerator. I had nothing, but I did bring my sweet potatoes. And I remember taking a picture one day and sending it to my coach because I was like, Costco has that big thing of shrimp and it's just steamed and it has no oil, no nothing on it. So I literally ran into Costco, like got some bananas and green beans and grabbed the shrimp, ran out to my car, which was stuffed with things. And I was so frustrated. I couldn't open the packages. I was at my wit's end, but I took a picture and I was like, yeah, I think I'm committed. Like,
Yes.
if you're going to make it work, then you make it work. Like it's pretty simple, I think.
Yes. So simple. Like if you have a commitment, you have a goal, then and you're comfortable with what's going to be demanded of you with life changes or
Mm-hmm.
circumstances and you still want to commit to it, then go and commit to it. And I love that. I think that's
Yep.
such a great
Yep.
example of it. And you moved from Utah to California. I love Utah. My family, we love to go there, and
It's amazing.
amazing. I'm amazed. Like I saw your view that you posted of your California location now, but I was
Mm-hmm.
just I was like, oh, but Utah, but the weather in California, you must be loving it.
Uh-huh. They both have their pros and their cons. Like Utah, I was very sad to leave actually,
Yeah.
um, because just the mountains there are incredible, and
Hmm.
you could go somewhere every day in that state and like never really tap into all of it. It's just incredible.
I love it. That's so true. So true. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I know you've also talked about the importance of traveling and following your passions. And also, what we haven't talked about yet is the importance of a supportive significant other. And you've brought this up in some of your posts. So, have you I know it's important to you, but have you ever had people who didn't support you in your goals or visions that makes it even more special for you to have someone who does?
Yeah. So going back to the beginning, I grew up in Alabama, and it's a pretty conservative state.
Mhm.
So you can imagine when I first said, "Hey, fam, I'm doing a bikini competition." They're thinking probably Hooters,
Yeah.
but I was like, "No, it's really not about that. It's about physique." But then they see the pictures and they're like, "But you're not really wearing much. Is that a bikini bottom?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, it is," and I swear. So I'd say my family is very supportive. However, in the beginning, they were just like, not quite sure about this.
Yeah.
And it takes a toll on relationships. I was, prior to my fiance, was in another relationship. And, even if they are supportive, there are times that they might say, "Hey, you're choosing to go do cardio instead of hang out with me. Like, I know it's important, but I never
Oh.
see you." And so then the little things start getting to you. So,
Mhm.
um, having someone that understands the sport from a competitor's point of view and understands the sacrifices required and will support you through that, is everything. Last year when I was prepping, for Universe, Jeff, who's my fiance, I was so tired, and I remember I was like, I have an hour of cardio, and he said, "Okay, well, I'll go walk it with you," or, "I don't care if it's 12 o'clock at night, let's go do it. I'll do it with you." Or,
Wow.
gets up and says, "I'll make your egg whites in the morning. You don't worry about that." And I'm just like, what universe did you come from?
Yep. That's
It is
awesome
it's
that you found him.
amazing. Oh my gosh. And it wasn't even through bodybuilding at all. He was working in a nursing home at the
Really?
time. And yeah, I remember
Fate. I'm
the first
telling
time
you.
I saw him, I was like, "Since when do hot guys work in nursing homes? That never happened."
That's hilarious. He's like, that's why I'm
Yeah.
here.
So, yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is, he kept trying to ask me if I would work out with him to, like, hang out or whatever. And I turned him down 3 or 4 times because I was like, "No, gym time is serious time. I'm not talking to you. Like, I don't really want to work out with people. I'm there on a mission and I got a lot to do and I don't have time to hang out."
And now do you guys train together?
Yeah, sometimes, but every now and then I'm like, you're talking to me too much. Like, leave me alone.
Yes, my boyfriend trains very differently than I do, but he's so supportive
Uh-huh.
of me, and it definitely does make a
Yeah.
difference to have someone who gets the lifestyle, and also not to be questioned for living it, just like
Mm-hmm.
being having that permission from someone you love and honor for who they are, loving and honoring you for who you
Mm-hmm.
are is really nice. It's
Yeah.
good to have your own self-love and desire for your lifestyle replicated in someone you really appreciate. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna throw it out there, but I think you have absolutely amazing shoulders. And
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
girl, you are welcome. I was like going through your pictures, like, what the heck? Her shoulders are amazing. I was like, if I don't know what it is, but they're just beautiful. And I was thinking that I would ask you the question that you've probably heard me ask now a few times since you do listen, is if there's one exercise you could do and you could only choose one, if you
Mhm.
could only do one forever for your shoulders, for your glutes, and for your hamstrings, what would you pick for each?
Oh man, I would do for my shoulders. That's hard because I do love shoulders, as you can tell. Um, I would probably do. I like face pulls with the rope for my rear
Oh.
delts. I feel like I can go heavy, and this is probably weird, but like because I go heavy, I sit back into it, and so as the weight is going, I'm like, yeah, I look really strong right now.
So true. I love seeing that rear delt pop.
Oh my gosh, it's the best ever, and it's something, especially on a woman, that is impressive. I feel like because a lot of times, women, even if they don't work out, may have a nice booty or nice legs or whatever. But someone who has nice shoulders, you're like, okay, you work out.
But do you have delts though? Yes, she does. Okay then.
Yes. So she spends some time in the gym. So I think that that kind of sets the physique apart as well, because you don't just look like a CrossFit person. You look like a bodybuilder, like a woman, but a
Yeah.
very feminine one, which is why I love bikini. So for hamstrings, I would say um, straight leg deads are my favorite, followed closely by hip thrusters, but that's kind of more glute. So we'll go with straight leg deads. Those I do almost every single time that I work out my lower half. So
Wow.
that's probably my most frequent. And with different things, I like it most maybe with the trap bar. That one feels nice to me.
Mhm. Mhm. And then for glutes, is it the hip thrust?
Yeah, that's kind of the tried and true. I hate squats. Um, I do them because we should, but if I could do something else other than squats, I will. So
Yes.
I will like thrust a million times before you get me in there doing like 100 squats.
I love it. That's awesome. And you talk a
don't
lot
don't tell
about
my coach.
and what?
I said, don't tell my coach.
You're like, Coach, I've replaced all my squats with hip thrusts. Hope you don't mind.
Sorry.
Actually, I'm curious about your coach now that you bring that up. You
Mhm.
switched coaches after you earned your pro card, right?
Yes, I actually switched at the end of last year after my pro debut, and now I'm with Neil Cash, and we had a very strategic all season because after I stepped on stage at the Wings of Strength, it was surreal. I signed up for it because it was somewhat close to when I won my pro card, but gave me a little bit of time in between. But I had no idea it was going to be such a star-studded event.
Mhm.
People, pros that I've been watching on Instagram for years are standing beside me, and I had always envisioned in my mind I would do something a little more low key in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
to kind of like get my feet wet. No, no, I'm standing beside Jen Ramzidi, and like Monica Ellis won that show, and I literally was standing back there like, how am I here right now?
What was that like for you to be backstage lined up with them, all these girls you had looked up to and were really in awe of?
Oh man. A couple of things. I think the first thing was that just seeing how real everyone is refreshing.
Mm.
Because, if you're a follower of this sport, you kind of have your idols. Um, you know, Issa, Angelica, all the people who are
Hmm.
placing in the Arnolds and Olympias, and you kind of look up to them almost like movie stars, and follow what they do and what they eat and what they don't, and how they place. And so to be back there and just see them kind of goofing around was refreshing. It kind of takes the pressure off, if you will. You're like,
Mm.
okay, they stand with their belly out too. It's okay. I mean, like the perfection of the photos is, um, they're real people. So that
Yes.
was kind of cool. And everybody was so nice. And I know you hear competitors say this a lot, but everybody really was so nice. Just to sit and chat. I mean, I was nobody. I've not really competed in the IFBB. That was my first show. So, just for, people to say hi and, chat a little bit. It was a week or two right before Olympia. So they were all about to step on stage. So for me, it was about just getting out there and getting the first one over with, because I knew that I needed to make improvements for me to really do well on the pro stage. But I wanted to get that first one over with, so then I could go into my off season, really decide what I needed to improve to really be competitive in the IFBB, and
Mm.
then have a really strategic plan on how to do that for this year. Obviously, that's changed a little bit because we're all being put off, but um, I'm going to be stepping on stage this year. It's going to happen.
That's where my head's at too. I'm like, so I could have picked a better time to take a year off. Like maybe that could have been 2020. But at the same time, I'm like, no, it's all part of the journey. It's part of the story. It'll be fine. But I feel you on that. Like now I'm just I'm hungry. I'm hungry for it. I'm taking my time. I'm not like in a rush. Me and my coach are working on some other things too. But it's like
hmm
there's still that hunger and desire to be like, let's freaking go. And who knows? Maybe by the time this episode is published, we'll both have a show picked out.
That would be amazing.
Well, okay, I do
so,
want to say too, you had made a lot of changes in your physique, even just in 1 year.
hmm
And I don't know if that was just by the way you presented it, by the way you peaked yourself, like what do you think made a difference in your various national shows leading up to the one where you earned your pro card?
I think because when I started, I had no background in this. So I think my body was ready to grow essentially. So a, I wasn't like a gymnast or something, somebody with a lot of muscle. So I think once I started being consistent, with my lifting and my nutrition, my body was kind of primed for it. And, maybe there is some genetics to that, that, some people just grow easier than others. I won't say it's ever easy because it's not. And I sacrifice a lot to do it, but
Right.
I was very consistent throughout my off season and while I was prepping, and I never stopped. So the gym never stopped for me. And I told you, once I stepped on that stage the first time, I was like, okay, I want to qualify for nationals. So my very next competition, I went and I did. I qualified for nationals. And then I went to two national shows that fall. So I jumped right in, and I probably wasn't ready to be at that level yet, but I was determined that I was going to be. So I kind of just went at it like I do everything head first. Kept lifting, kept studying the sport, what needs to improve. And I'm very hard on myself, I'd say, and that's probably a positive and a negative. Um, I think in this sport, you kind of have to have some tough skin because as a woman stepping on stage, you're asking someone to judge your body, which is very
Mhm.
personal. Um, and so you have to be mentally prepared for what that could look like in my mind.
Yeah.
So I try to look at myself that way too. And, if I get feedback and it's not what I like, then take that as a construction, like part of business, not personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because we in this sport, I think, can get a skewed view of ourselves and what we should be or should not be. So I think a lot of women struggle with that. So just finding the balance between, okay, in the grand scheme of people in this world, I am a fit person, even in my off season when I feel like I don't look that good. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to, manage the psychological, if you will, side of the sport
Mm-hmm.
while maintaining the physical side, which is the easy part as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And just really keeping a pinpoint view on, okay, what needs to improve? Okay, I'm going to do this and that, and then we'll try again. And so I had to try quite a few times
Mm-hmm.
before I finally got my pro card. But over time and consistency, I think that is what it is, just sticking with it and never once stepping off and being like, okay, I need a break. This, this is something I need 3 months off. No, I was always like, okay, I'm going back to the drawing board. Let's go.
That's interesting. That's a different approach than, some others have taken before in terms of time off and whatnot. And it sounds like you really just committed throughout that year and throughout those years to improve and get there. And something I like about what you said is, we put ourselves out there to be judged, but that doesn't have to dictate how we think and feel about ourselves. And I'm really passionate about the body image and the food relationships and these sides and goals really within this sport. And that's something I'm committed to helping competitors with. And one thing about that I think is important to just kind of dig a little bit more into is, sometimes we take feedback or we take, I shouldn't even say feedback, but let's say criticism or judgment from others or from social media or from, actual judges saying this is what needs to be better, or a coach, let's say. And we take it as though it's truth and it should determine how we feel, when really it's
Mm-hmm.
our perception of those things that's going to determine how we feel. So rather than
Mm-hmm.
looking at it as like a negative thing, or I'll never be good enough, or I can't do it, and creating all these limiting stories, instead we can just go,
Mm-hmm.
it's feedback. At the end of the day, this is
Mm-hmm.
feedback. And like you said, go back to the drawing board. And you talked about how you've struggled even in an improvement season, feeling like, oh, I don't look like as fit and healthy, but really, hey, I look really good,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the grand scheme of it all. So I think some
Mm-hmm.
people struggle to make that transition out of prep
Mm-hmm.
bod and prep life into an improvement season one. And there's a few things I want to talk to you about that, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of those things is you've talked about how improvement season has allowed you, or it gives you an opportunity to take some time away from a completely strict mentality and really focus more on health and other aspects of your life. So what have you done to help yourself transition out of prep mentality to a more let's say off season one, where maybe it's not as mentally strict as before?
Mm-hmm. I'd say after I'm done competing for the year, it probably takes me a good month to kind of transition my mind because if you've ever prepped, especially towards the end, it's like, okay, you're at the low end of any amount of calories you would ever consume in life. It's not real life. It is a very short period of time. But because you had to go there, your mind has been, okay, I can't have this and I can't have this and I can't have this. So for me, it's important to take the time to go, okay, we can do that, but, and no foods are bad. And go more into that mind frame of, feeding my body and giving my body things that will keep me in a good place. Because let's be honest, we're not going to grow and we're not going to build the muscle we need and we're not going to improve if we aren't feeding our bodies. They aren't going to perform. We know from a medical point of view, from a hormonal point of view, especially in women, that if we don't get that in check, then, and we do it for an extended period of time, you are going to run yourself into the ground and you're not going to have those improvements that you are so trying to get, no matter how hard you push. So having that knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is good, but it does take a certain amount of willpower to also reverse because, just like I think most people, when I did my first couple of shows, afterwards I was like, yeah, I can eat whatever. And,
Mm-hmm.
I never gained like 40 pounds or anything silly like that, but I did gain a little more than I wanted to, faster than I wanted to. And that very quickly made me go, whoa, okay, this has got to stop. And so now I am pretty meticulous about making sure I properly reverse, start reintroducing those carbs. Let's get those calories up. Actually, this year, after my pro debut and as I went into my off season, we got my calories up the highest I've ever had them. I was eating probably more than I ever have in my life. And I think as a result of that, I have gained the most muscle I ever have in the off season. So
Wow.
the, this is it's a science, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
a foodie. So in my off season, like I want to go and travel. I love wine. I love
Mm-hmm.
to go and be with people and do happy hour and do, I don't want to socially restrict myself as because I've moved overseas. I want to go somewhere every year. And I've actually been talking to my coach this year because, all plans have been skewed, but
Mm-hmm.
I am already saying, hey, I at some point want to go to Europe. And when I go to Europe, I'm going to eat croissants and have wine. Like that's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. That doesn't mean that I'm going to do that for 10 months out of the year. But,
Right.
I think within this sport, you have to have life, and life can't be only the sport, for me, anyways, to be well rounded. So, after about a month after the stage, I start getting into something that feels more normal and to a place where I feel really comfortable, where I have, great energy and I feel like I could probably sprint 10 miles. I love when I get to that point. So, just having been in the sport long enough now, I know what it feels like. So none of that is a surprise. And I know what both tracks look like. So if I let myself just go and, have appetizers and drinks every night, I'm going to have a really hard time and I'm actually not going to feel that good. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes more sense to reverse, do it appropriately, and feed my body with good whole foods. And even now when I'm prepping, I like my food. Like it's not a
Mm-hmm.
dread thing. So when people are like, "Oh my God," I'm like, "That pizza from Little Cece's looks disgusting. Like I wouldn't touch that even if I wasn't dieting." So, like I love vegetables and fruits and whole, meats. So what I do doesn't feel restrictive to me at all. It's probably what I would do even if I wasn't doing this. So to me, that's pretty simple.
Definitely. Like really prioritizing your health both in prep and in improvement season and seeing the benefit of following such a lifestyle and how it impacts your health and your function and your overall state of energy and then beyond that your state of mind and knowing when okay, hey, now I want to go focus on this aspect of my life and that doesn't mean you're any less of a competitor. It just means that that's part of your process for longevity and long-term growth and
Mm-hmm.
success in that lifestyle.
Yeah, it allows me to really focus when it's time to focus. Because if I feel like I'm not missing out on anything else that I would normally want to do, because, we know that this sport also has a time limit on it. I'm not going to be doing it when I'm 70.
Mhm.
So, right now it feels good to have a goal and have something to push for and have something that I can look back and on and say, you know what, I did that. And that's one thing I love too. And what I tell my clients that I have is it's so empowering because there are so many aspects of life that are completely out of our control. So many people have suddenly lost their jobs through COVID-19, and we had no idea it was coming. We didn't know restaurants were going to be closed. I mean, you could walk outside tomorrow and your dog get run over, and like things are out of your control. This is
Mhm.
something that's in my control. It's something that's tangible. It's something that I know that if I put my mind to it, I will see change. And for me, that is so life giving. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. There's so many more benefits to it than just what sometimes is seen on surface level. And I think something you mentioned earlier too, which is that there was a setback, and there sometimes are, especially when you're newer in the sport. But what did you do to overcome that initial experience post show, or how did you apply that lesson to now your most recent improvement season?
I think it's just given me more discipline, because, after the first one, and it's highly popularized to go crazy after your show, and you can eat whatever. And often, a lot of times, friends and family are like, "Okay, now you can eat whatever," and they want
Mm-hmm.
to feed you, and you're like, "Hold on, hold on." But after that first initial time, and just seeing what it takes to get back to the stage again after that, I think that's just the biggest thing that keeps me in check, honestly. And knowing that I'm not restricting, like, I get my free meals and I still do all the things I want to do. So that's, I think, what a lot of people don't understand who don't do it. And, when I would go to work, I would have my little baggies of food, and people just, they don't get it. And they don't have to. That's okay. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, let let me do me. And but then, 2 months later, when they see the results of it, everybody is like, "Oh, well, can you help me?" And I'm like, "I can if you want to do it."
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't want to go there. And I don't feel like you have to want to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to want to be an IFBB pro to live a healthy lifestyle. And that's really what I do with my lifestyle clients. And 90% of the people I've coached are everyday people. When I worked in the gym in Salt Lake City, I worked with so many clients, just, they want to lose weight, or they just want to be able to run a 5K, or they want to be able to keep up with their kids, or just how to fit it in day to day. And be healthy, do have a balance. I think it's all about balance, and it's all about being healthy and living a long, healthy life. That's really what I think most of us want.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And if that long, healthy life can be full of our passions and choices that make us feel good and fulfilled
Mhm.
and uh, committed to ourselves, that's great. I think there's a disconnect sometimes where people associate discipline with restriction when it doesn't have to be like that at all. Uh,
Right.
e- right. If you look at someone who, like you said, like your lifestyle clients, they don't need to follow a bro science bodybuilding plan. But to that point,
Mhm.
bodybuilders also don't have to subscribe to that norm. It's a matter of like
Mhm.
what do you need to get to the result you desire in a time you're comfortable and confident getting there, and accepting the
Mhm.
process that comes with that commitment and with that desire. I think a lot
Mhm.
of people just put so much pressure on themselves. Oh, I have to do this in this amount of time and I have X amount of weeks,
Mhm.
when really it's like, well, how is that going to impact you in 52 weeks from now? How are you going to feel if this is what you
Mhm.
commit to? And so we need to really think long term. And I think a lot of girls get into this sport now, especially like with certain things being uh well, I'm part of this, but like, we
Mhm.
put professionals on a pedestal, which I love the pros. I think you guys are all amazing, and we can learn so much. Success leaves clues. But I think there's this glamorization as well of the lifestyle that
Mhm.
leads people to think, I want to be pro, and they've not even stepped on stage because they see the
Mhm.
value in being a pro in the sense of how happy pros appear to be, the lifestyle they appear to be, maybe
Mhm.
the discipline or the level of control they have. So there's a lot of associations attached to being a pro that I think makes a lot of girls crave that pro card, but much of that can be achieved
Mhm.
outside of competing. Anyway, I'm joining on and on, but I'm curious as to
Yeah, I
for
love
you,
that.
like, well, thank you. Like when you felt that fire in you after your first show,
Mhm.
you said, "You okay, I'm gonna go get nationally qualified." But then it actually ended up taking many national shows for you before you achieved that
Mhm.
coveted pro card. So what did you learn about yourself or your body or even the sport in that time period, where it wasn't just, oh, I compete and I go get my pro card, but oh, I compete and now I'm multiple national shows later, and yeah.
Yeah. So I think first, respect.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people who do this, it's very few people just walk right out there and earn that pro card. So I think it is it it maintains its mystique, if you will, and its prestige because especially in bikini, there are so many women who are there. If you've ever been backstage at a national show, everybody looks, for the most part, looks phenomenal. And there were so many times I'm standing backstage and I'm like, how the heck am I going to be seen? I mean, so just respect of the process and respect
Yes.
for what it means to get it. And I think that's because I did so many shows and because I worked so hard, that when I earned it, it meant that much more. And I wasn't one who cried on stage or anything. When I sat there and they were about to call out my name because I'd already called out the second place
Mm-hmm.
person, it felt like I was in a dream. And I think I underreacted and I kind of was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Oh my gosh. And I don't think it even hit me till later that day. And I was like, I'm a pro. Um,
Yes.
and I finally got that glee, but I really was just like, oh my gosh, it's, yep, they just call my name. Um, yeah, so respect for the sport. And I forget exactly where I was going with
You were
it.
saying respect the
um,
process because you went through so
mhm.
much of it that when you came out of it, it was that much sweeter.
Yeah. So, just, people starting out, yeah, the pro, you know, what you see is great. And I am probably just as guilty as anyone else of posting like fake pictures on social media that are photo shoots that I did when I looked great and was lean. But I also try to put stuff, especially in my stories of, hey, this is me every day. This is my outfit and this is what it looks
Yes.
like. So it's not stage lean and I'm not stage lean right this second, but I'm prepping. So that is a very fleeting look. And so I think just learning the acceptance of the process and also the time and dedication that it takes gives me even more respect for the people who've been doing this. I, I still read about, girls who've been out there and they've been competing in the pro league for 7, 8 years. And I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. So yes, it's glamorous. Yes, they've earned it. And it's hard work and it's dedication. It's a lifestyle. And so I think I've learned all of that through the process, through, taking the time, earning. I feel like I really earned my way in. It wasn't given to me. I've never been the one that stepped on stage and the judges were like, yep, she's the one. I went out there time after time and I went and I asked for feedback and tried to take, you could get different feedback too. I mean, one
Mm-hmm.
person could say, we want you to be a little more tight, AKA lean. The next one can be like, oh, well, we need this more full. And so you walk away going, I don't know. So listen to your coach. Um, they, hopefully you've hired someone that has your best interest and is going to help you achieve the look that you need. But um, yeah, just stick in there with the process and try to grow emotionally, physically. It's a full spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I realized through doing so many competitions in one year. It was like, oh, none of this is actually going to just happen. And I wouldn't want it to either. And
Mhm.
that's actually what personally helped me to learn respect for the sport as well. And I was like, damn, I had no respect the first time I stepped on there thinking everything would just be fine and dandy. No,
Mhm.
it doesn't work like that. I mean, for some people it does, like you said, but there is so much to be gained in the respect of the process, honoring the process, and even embracing it to the point where you no longer are attached to the outcome of time. Like you said, when you were up
Mhm.
there and they called your name, it was almost like, wait, what? Like it hadn't really settled in until
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, it really was surreal. And I even look back at the video, and I'm like, I look like I'm not happy, but inside I was. I was just like, oh wow, like something you've dreamed about, something that you eat, sleep, breathe for years, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, they're about to call my name, and it's really happening. Oh my gosh.
Yes. That's
And then
so
like the transition
cool.
to pro too, like it's kind of overwhelming because you shoot for that pro card.
Mm,
It's like this very tangible thing that I knew I could achieve if I did it enough. Um, but like in the pro league, I'm like, okay, so what am I shooting for now? Of course, everyone wants to go to Olympia.
yes.
So I'm shooting for Olympia, yes, but is it realistic? Maybe. Yes, I want to say yes. Like, so it's like
Yes.
a whole different feeling prepping this time because I'm like, okay, not only when am I stepping on stage, that's a whole different story, but what are my goals for it now? And I think as a pro, you have to love the process because you can't
Mm,
be in it just for a
the
pro card. You
accolades.
can't you're
Hmm.
not going to get a trophy. Like a lot of times you're not going to get anything except for to be on stage again. So yeah, it's like a whole different feeling this year.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was actually going to ask you about that because I think it's really almost like potentially a grieving process. You go from,
Yeah.
chasing this tangible thing, like you said, and then you get it, and then you're like, oh, now what? Yep. And I've not
Yeah,
had
it's
mine, but
been
I
hard.
could understand that that's probably what went through your mind, where you got it, and then you're like,
Mhm.
well, this version of me that was chasing that for so long now no longer exists because here I am.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it really is. And I'd say that this off season has been my most successful in terms of me really sticking to a meal plan and really sticking to like specific training and like having a vision on instead of having a pro card, getting a pro card, my vision has been of how I want to evolve because
Mm,
my goal for this year is to step on stage this first time and them, the judges don't know me. I haven't been out there. I'm not proven. I've not been in front of them a million times. So I want to step out and them to be like, who is she? Okay.
mm,
And like, I don't know if we've seen her before, but have that look, get first call out. Um, Goals like this are my goals for this year. Obviously, yeah, Olympia. That's what I want. But in the meantime, I'm going to be good if I can get some call ups, if they know who I am this year and I start placing, that would be amazing. So I think just trying to have high goals while keeping my expectations within a certain realm in order to, feel success still.
mm. That's interesting. I like that perspective. It's new and it's different. It's not just clinging to one outcome, but instead all those outcomes that eventually lead there as well.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think it's a process. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I step on stage and they call my name and I win, that's amazing. Of course, I want
Hmm.
that. But who
Of
doesn't?
course.
We don't do this because we want to lose, quote unquote. I don't know that there are losers, but um, we don't do this. And I know I don't do it thinking I can't win because every
Right.
time I stepped on stage, I thought I could win. When I went to the Salt City Showdown that first time, I remember stepping out there and like, I got this. Like, I look
Hmm.
good. And so even now I look back at my pictures, even my first nationals, and I look at it and I'm like, I was not ready for that. But at the time, I
You
thought I
felt
was. I
good.
really thought, yeah, I was going to get first call outs and I didn't. And I'm like, dang, but I placed eighth, I think, in my first nationals. But,
Wow.
and then the next one dropped to top 15, I think, and it was crushed. So, yeah, judging, as you know, in the sport goes all over the place, and you're going to place in different places. So, my goal is to find my worth and my joy in the sport in other areas while still
Mm,
having that ultimate goal.
that's a big golden nugget right there, finding worth and joy in
Mm-hmm.
other aspects of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I've even heard Sandy Williamson talk about Um, she talked about how sometimes you're going to get that different judging because you got to find the look that looks best on your body.
Mhm. Yep. My coaches talked to me a lot about that this year, because I'm a tall girl, so I'm between 5'7" and 5'8", depending on who measures me. But I realized also backstage when I did Links of Strength last year that I'm pretty tall. Felt like a glamazon against a lot of the pros that are out there. So we look very different on stage. So what looks good on me is going to look completely different on someone that's 5'2". And me standing beside them, like our musculature looks different. I may have to have more muscle because my muscles are long. And so to get that pump, I need more than maybe the person that's a lot shorter than me. And we all have, different anatomy as far as my torso length or the width of my shoulders versus someone else. So you have to find what looks best on your body and show that. So that's always the goal.
Yeah. I mean, how weird would it be if we all were required to bring the same amount of muscle or shape or something? Like, it just would be strange. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to complain sometimes, like, oh, what's the criteria anyway? What are they really looking for? Well, that would be unfair to
Mm-hmm.
even try to strive for one particular thing. It's just, there's criteria around
Right.
shape and presentation, obviously, and symmetry, but at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, how do you pull that off the best? How does it look best on you? And a big part of that
Mm-hmm.
is posing. And I'm curious
Mm.
about your
So much.
experience working with a male posing coach, and how that's compared to
Mm-hmm.
maybe experiences with other coaches if you've worked with female posing coaches as well.
Mm-hmm. I have done both, and actually, most recently has been with a male posing coach. And I think I'm so analytical of when I'm posing. It's not me and like my body. I don't take it personal. Like it's all business. So I don't think it feels any different for me posing with a male versus a female because all of it is me going, okay, do
Mm-hmm.
my glutes look round here or not? How can we tweak my waist? So I am so like tuned into tweaking the small things that it's almost like I'm talking to Charlie Brown's friend that
Yeah.
want. Like there's no face there. It's just someone with experience and an eye for the sport that's giving me feedback on how to win. Because you can have the best physique and not pose well, and you're going to lose every time. But maybe if you don't have the best physique, but you pose it well and you hide your weaknesses and show those strengths and come out with confidence, it might be your day. So I think that being able to separate the feedback, we won't call it criticism, feedback,
Mm-hmm.
no matter who is coaching you, is super important. And really, you have to trust who you're working with because that is the presentation of all of your hard work. So hopefully your posing coach does you justice and you
So
can,
true.
you know, enjoy it and go out there because I think a lot of times I've watched back my videos of me on stage and I'm like, I was having so much more fun than it looked like. Like
Mm.
I felt like I was showing that I was having a great time and had energy, but I didn't look that way on stage. So I think
Mm.
being able to look at a video and getting feedback and on yourself and being able to take that and, tweak it is huge as well.
Yes, it's like it's almost like watching film for, like, when football players go and watch film, or you're watching your competitors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing it to be like, that looks really bad or that looks really good and I'm better or
Mm-hmm.
worse because of it. It's more just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this didn't come across the way I would like it to have. Here, let's
Mm-hmm.
tweak it this way.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Because that's everything. I mean, you put in so much time, so much effort, so much dedication. So you have to be able to show that when you step on stage to do it justice.
Yes. Yeah, especially because it's been a culmination of so much work over, sometimes months and months, years and years, weeks and weeks, whatever it is, depending on where you're at in your
Hmm.
journey. You deserve
Right.
that. It's a great way to show that love to yourself and honor that commitment. And we've talked about so many different things already on this show, and I hope there's nothing that I missed. Is there anything you wish that I would have asked you? I'm definitely going to ask you for your advice, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have?
I think we covered a lot. I'm happy to talk about, the different aspects of me and put out there to other girls and women who are aspiring to get that pro card and to, make a life change, whatever it is that you're looking to do, that you can do it. And, you can have a career, you can have a relationship, you can have, a happy hour, you can have life, and you can still achieve this. You do have to have discipline and you have to have consistency, but it is totally doable. And if you want to make it happen, then just don't give up. Sometimes 7 national shows feels like a lifetime, but then you look back on it and like I said, I'm like, oh, what now? Holy cow. But yeah, totally attainable. Just, surround yourself with positive people, positive energy, people that are in your corner and support you, and, put in the work, put in the time.
Wow, that's amazing advice. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that. I was taking notes. That's why I was kind of stalling on my response. It was just so good.
Oh, you're good.
I appreciate that so much, and just everything you shared. I thoroughly enjoyed just hearing more about you too and your journey and what you do both inside and outside of the sport and your experience with it all. Thank you for sharing all of it.
Awesome. No problem. Thanks for chatting with me and give me a few minutes of your time. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And can you let everybody know where they could connect with you or maybe find you or work with you?
Yes, you can find all you need on my Instagram. I am Parris Fitness, and Parris is with 2 R's, so EPARRIS Fitness. That's me on Instagram. There's a link to email if there's anybody looking for lifestyle or prep coaching. I do it all. Men and women, so I don't discriminate. And I just love to encourage others to live healthy, live happy, and really shoot for those goals, because I feel like, heck, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to put all of those links in the show notes page, which is always on celestial.fit/podcast. So for you guys listening, if you're listening right away, Emily's episode is going to be right at the top of the page. If not, just scroll to the category section. You'll be able to see it, all the notes. Don't forget there's episode timestamps as well. So you can bookmark this episode and then you can come back and go, when was she talking about that thing? And then you can look at the episode timestamps and you'll know, and you can go and listen to it again. So I hope that you all love this episode as much as I've enjoyed it. And definitely tag us as you listen, share with your friends, your teammates, and that always means so much to me. By the way, you guys, I just want to take a moment really quickly to share this, because I've been recording these episodes in advance, but a few of you have messaged me saying, you were in a Facebook group and they mentioned it, or you got a message from a friend. Like, that means so much to me that you guys post it to your story, that you share it. Wow, I just feel so blessed to be able to serve and be part of this and really contribute to this community. So thank you guys so much for listening week to week and supporting the show and providing so many opportunities that come with it. And Emily, thank you for being part of it now too.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Of course. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.